Is this the year that the New York Knicks make the charge to the NBA Finals? Welcome in or welcome back. I'm super excited for this episode. Arguably, probably one of my longest mutuals in the house as a New York Knicks fan. Almost 400 subscribers on YouTube, almost 85,000 views on YouTube as well. Really excited. Knicks fan, all around NBA fan. Everyone, welcome to the channel, Jacoblocks.
Yes, thanks for having me. That was a great intro, by the way.
I'm trying my best out here. Hopefully, as the series goes on, I'll get even more polished. It doesn't look like I'm trying too hard.
You did a good job hyping me up enough, I think.
Yeah. Like I said, I really am excited to have you on here. I think that we'll get into it later, but I think that arguably you were the most authentic and real content creator in our space, at least to the people that I follow, and that's something that I really gravitate towards. So I wanted to have you on for this Knicks episode. There was nobody else in Knicks tape that I even considered. You were the number one guy. So again, I really appreciate you hopping on.
I appreciate that too, man. Thank you. I try to be genuine at least, so I'm glad that people would pick up on it.
Yeah, absolutely. So for the people at home that may not be aware of who you are, I like to give everyone on this series, we've only had one at the time of recording, but I like to give everybody kind of a baseline intro to who you are as a fan. So is there something that you could tell me? Is there a reason that you're a Knicks fan?
Well, I mean, I was born and raised in New York, specifically on Long Island. So, I mean, I feel like it was kind of destined for me to become a Knicks fan. To be fair, there are multiple New York teams, though. So, if I had to give anything credit, I would give my Uncle Sean credit. He was a big Knicks fan growing up, throughout the Ewing days. He was, around like my age when Patrick Ewing was on the Knicks. So, he kind of fell in love with them then, and then definitely helped pass that onto me. He even took me to my first Knicks game, which was super dope. So yeah, combination between just where I'm from and then also my family. So
when do you think that started? Was there like a specific age that you like solidified being a fan?
I mean, I feel like that's a little harder to pinpoint. Like I watched NBA like when I was a kid and everything. But like when I really like locked into being like a true like diehard fan, I would say probably 2014, 2015, which I know is a little later than some people, but I'm also only like 22 years old, so give and take there. But around like the mid 2010s is where I really like locked in and definitely solidified myself as like an NBA and Knicks fan.
See, when I was working in my head, I thought maybe you have been a fan, since like 4 or 5 years old, and at that time, the Nets would have been in New Jersey rather than Brooklyn. So I didn't know if there was this divide. And you'll have to forgive me for my ignorance. Is there now? It's a little bit different because they're in Brooklyn and you guys are at the Garden. But is there a real rivalry for that, or is this kind of just you're here and I'm here, we have to beef?
I think it kind of boils down to that. Like, you could see it across all of sports where, like, the New York teams, there's, like, a little bit of animosity. I feel like part of it is, like, just fun, where it's, like, we're all in here. Some people are Giants fans. Some people are Jets fans. Same thing, Yankees and Mets. And, you see that with the Knicks and the Nets as well. Usually, there's, like, a big brother of those two teams in those pairings. So, the fact that I'm the Knicks fan, part of the big brother team, I definitely would say that I would downplay the rivalry a little bit. I think we kind of overtake the Nets to an extent, but I don't want to disrespect them too much. They definitely are a good team, good organization.
There's been a couple of people that says that you have to win something for it to be considered a rivalry, and the Knicks have kind of been putting belt to ass on the Nets for a while. So not sure if there's a real rivalry here. Even though that you are, I don't want to call you a newer fan because I mean it's been over a decade now, but for someone like me, for instance, I'm 30. And I've been watching the NBA since I was like 7 or 8. So I've had like a pretty long history into this. I know that you do your homework. I know that you're a super fan. Because of all of that, is there a favorite New York Knick of all time for you?
It's going to be the boring answer. It's going to be Jalen Brunson, just because he is definitely the best player I've ever seen put on a New York Knicks jersey. If you X that to my uncle, he'd probably be a little pissed because he's a big karl-anthony fan. But me personally, just the amount of game winners, clutch shots, insane shots that I've seen Jalen Brunson hit over just the short period he's been a New York Knick. I feel like I can't really pick anyone else. If I had to not go the boring route, though, I am a super big fan of Josh Hart as a role player. He fits the exact mold of like the do it all Swiss Army knife guys. I love those type of guys. And also just the fact that he is on my team doing that, going 110%. I really do enjoy that. And then this is kind of a cop-out answer, but big shout out to Clyde Frazier. Obviously wasn't around to watch him play, but I get to hear him commentate, majority of the Knicks games during the regular season. And no exaggeration, at least once a game, he makes me let out an audible laugh. He's a great guy. I was able to actually meet him too one time. I got a picture with him. Real big fan of Clyde.
Incredible talent in the day, and now, truthfully, probably one of the best commentators in the game, bar none. This is a off-subject question just a little bit. Do you have Gotham Sports?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Okay. Does it as big of a hassle as every other New York fan has told me it was trying to watch the games?
Honestly, no. I have cable, so I just kind of sign my cable into the app, and then it allows me to go on MSG or Yes Network or all of those games. But I think if you don't have cable, it probably is a little bit more difficult to go through all of that. To me, though, it was basically just I downloaded a new app and just signed in. That was all I had to do.
Okay. Jacoby, formerly of Jalen and Jacoby, and now on the mismatch with Chris Vernon, he has Gotham Sports, and it feels like every other episode during the season, he is complaining about how difficult it is to watch the New York Knicks on Gotham Sports. So I really had to tap in with like a local to figure it out.
Yeah, I will say it is really hard to watch the Liberty. I would try doing that a few times, and it is like damn near impossible for me to be able to watch them. So hopefully they can fix that up a little bit. But Knicks and Nets, usually it's pretty simple.
Hey, fair enough. Back to the conversation at hand. On the heels of you having a favorite Knick, is there an underrated Knick that maybe the general population doesn't think about often, but you just kind of hold close to your heart?
I don't know if I could give you like one specific guy, but I do feel like I look back to those like super bad years from like 20, like what was that, like 2016 to like 2019, that stretch where the Knicks were just the laughing stock of the league. And to like think back to seeing like that team to now the team we have, like I think that makes me a little bit more appreciative. And looking back at guys like Jarrett Jack or Kyle O'Quinn, Ron Baker, Noah Vonleh, like these are names that every once in a while will cross my mind, and I'll just be like, that is so funny that I used to get so excited to root for these guys, and then now I can root for Jalen Brunson and OG and Cat and all of these guys. Like I do try to stay balanced and stay appreciative to know like we came so far.
Jarrett Jack is such a good pull. He will never get the respect that he deserves, but he has been a problem every single step that he has made in this league. And even when he was playing for the Knicks, when they were awful, he was someone that you could have tuned in on the League Pass and go, you know what? I'm interested in watching Jarrett Jack score 20 tonight. That's what I want to do with my Saturday night. So Jarrett Jack, great pull. Can't go wrong.
Shout out to Trey Burke too. I forgot about him. I'm a big Trey Burke
my God,
fan.
Trey Burke,
Yes.
when he was in his like Allen Iverson era, so good for the Knicks. So good.
He was the prelude to Jalen Brunson.
Yeah, absolutely. He was prototype one, and then Jalen Brunson is the finished product. I love that comp.
Yeah.
Because of all of this good welfare, I want to end this little intro section with a positive note. In your years of being a fan, is there a moment that you can look back on and say, this is the peak of my fandom as a Knicks fan?
You're probably not going to like this answer, but it did come this last year when we went up 2-0 against your Boston Celtics.
And that's all the time that we have for today.
The fact that it was back-to-back 20-point comebacks and then capped off by crazy defensive plays by Mikal Bridges, like after that win of game 2, like I was on cloud 9, the highest I've ever felt as a Knicks fan. Like no one could tell me anything at that time. Like we were winning the championship, we were sweeping the rest of the playoffs. Like I was feeling it after that. It definitely, I don't know, like if you count that as like, because that's like a combination of like the two games. If you're talking about like one specific play though, my favorite play as a Knicks fan was the game winner last year, or I guess 2 years ago now, from Dante DiVincenzo in game 2 versus Sixers. The ups and downs that I felt in that like 15-second play alone was crazy. Like if I have to single it out to one play, I definitely got to go that one.
Yeah, it's really easy to say that that's the moment, even being on the wrong end of it. I was even, going back and forth with you on Twitter while that series was going on, and I didn't believe. I don't want to say didn't believe ever, but about at halftime in game one, I'm like, I don't think that this team, like, we may win a couple games, but I don't think that we have enough to get it done. That's where I was in it, and then of course we were coming back, in quotations, coming back the game that JT went down. But even at that point, he had 42 when he went down, and we were still getting our ass handed to us. So there really wasn't any hope for us at all that series. I'm glad. I'm not the kind of Celtics fan that is so anti every other team. I think as long as there's a good representative from the Eastern Conference to be in the Eastern Conference Finals, the NBA Finals, or whatever, I think that perfectly fine. Because let's say, for instance, we did beat you guys. We weren't beating that Pacers team, even if Jason Tatum did stay healthy. They were on a mission, and it was very clear from the start. So I really can't be mad that you picked that moment as your favorite moment as a Knicks fan.
Yeah, definitely was because I think the fact that we were like such heavy underdogs too, like the fact that it was back to back too, like the same script basically, like it was just it was like peak Knicks fandom for sure.
Well, hopefully the Knicks can repeat some of that success this year. So let's talk about what we have in store for us. Normally, I would start these off by looking at the draft acquisitions, but I actually think that there's something more important that we need to talk about here. There was a huge change in the coaching staff this offseason. The Knicks let go of Tom Thibodeau, who probably, especially in my lifetime, is the most successful Knicks coach in history. I mean, you gotta have to go all the way back in the Patrick Ewing days to even nitpick someone else. But they went and hired Mike Brown to a 4-year, $40 million contract. I think if you asked somebody who was a fan of the Cavs in 2009, you'd probably get a different answer here. But do you consider this the Knicks win now move?
I definitely think so. I know a lot of people like there was a lot of talk about like should the Knicks fire Tom Thibodeau? Like he was a very polarizing coach, especially like last year among Knicks fandom. But specifically when you look at like the hiring of Mike Brown, I do think that it's a win now move. I think he's kind of shown that he's been around the league long enough, and like I was a big fan of what he did in Sacramento. Most recently, that's where he was. Even before he became like a candidate for the Knicks, I defended him after they fired him because I felt like he was to an extent like wrongfully scapegoated there in Sacramento. But even like before that, being a part of basically like the full Warriors dynasty as an assistant coach, like he's been around a lot of great minds, a lot of great players. And I definitely think that he can come to New York and hopefully maximize this roster a little bit better than what Tom Thibodeau was doing last year. But yeah, I am definitely really excited for him to come. He was one of my like top candidates.
Now, obviously, the styles between Mike Brown and Tom Thibodeau are night and day because it would be such a stark difference from what you had over the last 5 years. Is there any concern that you have? Is there anything that you can kind of pinpoint and go, this could be an issue for us this year in Mike Brown's coaching?
Nothing like specific that I can really point to and say like, this, I'm scared about this and this is my evidence. Like obviously when you make changes, there's always a risk that someone in the locker room could butt heads with him and doesn't like his style of coaching. And, there's always that possibility, I guess. But I don't think there's anything like concrete that I'm super like concerned about. I do think, like you said, like he has a very different coaching style than Tom Thibodeau. I feel like this Knicks team very quickly kind of shifted from a defensive oriented team to an offensive oriented team. Like, we traded for karl-Anthony Towns like right before the season started. Obviously, with the emergence of Jalen Brunson as like one of the best offensive players in the league, this team definitely seems to be leaning a little bit more towards offense. And I do think that if we bring in a guy like Mike Brown, again, he could hopefully maximize the strengths of this roster a little bit better than a guy like Tibbs.
Absolutely. And I think you kind of touched on it there. The opposite side of that coin is Mike Brown could easily improve something that Tom Thibodeau has built. I think because of the way that your all's roster is constructed, you're still going to have this defensive mindset. Like you still employ Mitchell Robinson and OG and McHale. I still think that those defensive elements are going to be there. But I also think that while you're already getting max production from Cat and Jalen Brunson in the 1-2, I think that we may this year see more tapped into what Mikal Bridges was in Brooklyn, where he was the primary ball handler and he was the shot maker. I feel like we may tap into that more rather than what we saw a lot this year in the catch and shoot threes.
Yeah, for sure. I think Mikal is definitely like a candidate for a guy that could maybe see more of an increased role offensively. Even last year when Jalen Brunson went down with his ankle injury towards like the end of the year, OG looked really good with some more opportunity. So again, yeah, I feel like Mike Brown should be able to do a pretty good job at trying to diversify the offense a little bit more and get these guys more shots because this Knicks team has like a lot of talent.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's talk about some of that talent. I don't want to say that the Knicks had the best offseason because spoiler alert, I think that's the Denver Nuggets. We're going to have the Drop Step Network later on in this series to talk about them. Really excited about that as well. I think that foundationally teams are supposed to build through the draft, but when you are in the position of the Knicks where you are ready to go for it now, the draft picks don't necessarily mean anything. And I don't mean anything like disparaging toward Mohamed Diawara, the 51st pick in this year's draft, but he did recently announce that he was going to leave his French club to become an NBA player. I wonder, do you think there's a real scenario where he gets a lot of minutes only because he is going to have to play with Cat and Mitchell Robinson? And I feel like even though the rotations may be expanded a little bit, I feel like he may be on the chopping block.
Yeah. So like short answer, no, he probably won't get much burn. I think it was James Edward. He's a beat reporter for the Knicks. He reported that if he had to guess, so it's not anything like concrete. If he had to guess, he would assume Mike Brown might go with a 9-man rotation. Even if you expand that out to a 10-man, though, I feel like there's guys in front of Diawara that would get that look before he would. And I feel like the best case scenario of him getting, or the most likely case scenario of him getting some burn is if there's injuries. But even in that situation, I feel like Mike Brown would go towards guys like Huck Porty or Tyler Kolek. I'm blanking on the draft pick last year. I don't know why I can't think of his name right now. The other French guy from the Knicks. This is gonna piss me off. I don't know. It's
It'll come to us in like 20 minutes.
Pacome Dadier. I don't know why his name completely left my mind. But I feel like those three guys would get that opportunity before a guy like Diawara. And I think that's fine. Like most contending teams, like you said, like especially second round picks, they don't really get burns as rookies. So yeah, I'm not too like worried about it. I don't think he'll have too big of a role.
Yeah, I'm sure he's going to have a wonderful career at the Westchester Knicks, the G League affiliate team. I'm sure he's going to do great there. At the time of recording this video, the Timberwolves video that I did with my buddy Riley dropped yesterday, and they're kind of in a similar situation. They had Jan Berenger at 17 and then Rocco Sikorsky at like 45. Both of them play center, and their center and forward room is packed. Like they're not going to get any burn at all. But I feel like that's kind of what happens when you have teams that are ready to win it now. If this was the Jazz, Muhammad would probably be getting like 20 minutes a night, but it's just not in the cards for him this time. So I also don't think he's going to get a whole lot of PT. Maybe in the games where y'all are busting somebody's ass by like 40, we'll get to see what he can do. But I'd have to imagine that he's going to be a Hall of Fame water getter.
Yeah, I don't really expect too much from him in his rookie season.
When we're talking about the additions and the new talent that you had mentioned, the expanding of the rotation, I think that you probably have two really good pickups. I'm not sure how it'll mesh all together when you're talking about the unit of the Knicks, but I do like them in a vacuum. The first one is getting Jordan Clarkson for a 1-year deal on the minimum after he was bought out by the Jazz. We all know what Jordan Clarkson can do. He's a microwave. He's a Jamal Crawford type. He's this guy that you can put the ball in his hands and go get a bucket. And I think as an objective fan, as an outsider, there were a lot of times last year where if it wasn't Jalen or Cat getting the offense, there was no offense. So what do you think realistically Jordan can bring to this team?
Well, I feel like you kind of touched on it before. If it wasn't like Jalen Brunson with the ball in his hands from the perimeter, like there wasn't a lot of shot creation, especially like self-created shot creation. And like, shout out Campaign. He had a solid year. I think Jordan Clarkson is definitely just a better player than him. So him coming in and just, eating up those minutes for when Jalen Brunson's on the bench, just at the minimum. I think he can maybe raise the floor of the offense a little bit. But then also, I think he has the ability to be able to play next to Jalen Brunson and kind of double down on that perimeter shot creation, especially like in the Garden. He's a type of guy that could just, light up at any moment. And I feel like the Garden loves those type of players to really cheer for them. And that could maybe just even get him going even more. But I was really surprised that we were able to get someone of Jordan Clarkson's level of talent just because we didn't really have much money. The only reason he signed a minimum is because of that buyout from Utah. But yeah, I really do think that he comes into the New York Knicks and is probably like our second best shot creator, honestly, besides Jalen Brunson.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And if you're new here, I'm going to spoil something for you. I'm very much a homer in all of my fandoms. I want nothing more than for Deuce McBride to have been the guy to take Jalen's spot, not in the starting lineup. That's insane. I'm not ridiculous here. But when Jalen Brunson does come off the floor, just throw him the ball. He can self-create, and he's just not that guy. I'm not sure if he'll ever add that to his game. His game right now is being a hard-nosed defender and catching the kickouts for open threes. Like, that's kind of who he is now. And like I said, I want him to be the Jordan Clarkson. I want him to be the guy that Mike Brown trusts with the ball when Jalen's not on the floor. But I can't sit here and pretend like that isn't a clear upgrade over what you all were getting last year with the campaigns and with Deuce.
Exactly. I feel like Deuce, like you said, is much better right now as like that defender, that catch and shoot type of guy. I do think he's good as like your secondary ball handler. For you to ask him to be like the main point guard running the offense, I do think that he could maybe struggle with that. But last year he was working hard on his like one dribble pull up in the mid range. So like, expanding his game a little bit more like that. I do think a guy like Jordan Clarkson could maybe even make his job easier on that bench unit.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm really excited to see the three-headed dragon you guys have in the guard room there. Another upgrade that I feel like you made, and a pretty reasonable, a pretty clear upgrade, is getting Gershon Yabusele on a 2-year, $12 million deal. And I think I have to ask, are the best Knicks just former Boston Celtics players? I mean, when you think of the pantheon of great Knicks players, Courtney Lee is up there. We're talking Chris Humphries and now Gershon. So, so all kidding aside, when you're looking at Gershon, what he was last year for a very bad Philadelphia 76ers team, and being this upgrade over potentially Precious Achiuwa at the time, we'll get it to in a second, at the time, not confirmed he's coming back, but pretty sure he's not. What upgrades do you think there are between having Gershon on your team rather than having Precious Achiuwa on your team?
Well, I feel like one of the key things with like Gershon Yabusele is he is a true power forward. Like he can run center as well, but he is a true power forward, and the Knicks really haven't had that since trading away Julius Randle. OG Anunoby definitely holds it down at the 4. I feel like majority people definitely look at him as just a wing though, rather than like a power forward. Josh Hart obviously is a undersized power forward. Precious, you've mentioned, he was playing a little bit of power forward, a little bit of center. I feel like Precious is a power forward defensive wise, but offensively he's a center. So when he's out there next to another big, it really like mucks up the offense a lot. He's a good player, solid guy, but I think a guy like Gershon Yabusele allows the Knicks to get that size without having to give up that spacing and the flow offensively. I do think that Precious is probably marginally a better defender, but when you look at just overall as a player and how they fit with his roster, 10 times out of 10, I'm taking Yabusele over Precious.
Yeah, I think that because the 76ers were so bad last year, the general fan didn't get to see how much Gershon has improved, because I watched him his first couple of years in Boston. And if it wasn't a wide open corner three, I mean, he might as well have just thrown the ball into the stands. He couldn't hit anything. It was bad. So to see him take his time away to play in the EuroLeague, to play in the French division, to play for the national team, to solidify himself as a real player, and then get an opportunity in Philadelphia and show out, and then to get this kind of contract, really warms my heart. But I really do think that given the opportunity, especially because of this rotation expansion, I think we're going to see a really good Knicks bench, which I can't say has been the case for a very long time.
Yeah, for sure. These two guys, I think, are going to be real big parts of the Knicks bench, along with, I mean, there's no confirmed starting lineup, but along with 2 of the 3 guys of Deuce, Mitchell Robinson, or Josh Hart, two of those guys will be coming off the bench with these new additions. So I definitely think that the bench will be much better. And then also real quick on Yabusele, an underrated part of his signing, I think, is some injury insurance in case Mitchell Robinson does go down again, because pretty much his whole career, he's had to deal with some injuries, throughout the year, throughout the playoffs, whatever it is. Yabusele, like I mentioned, is a true power forward, but also can run the five. So I like that he can be on the roster just to solidify that big room.
Yeah, that's what you have insurance for in real life, right? So you need insurance as a basketball team. So I loved the pickup. It wasn't my favorite addition of the entire offseason. That was in my Orlando Magic video, getting Tyus Jones. But Gershon's got to be up there for my favorite in the entire offseason. Because we have the additions, we now, unfortunately, maybe not unfortunately for you, depending on how you feel about them, we have to talk about the departures of the team. And we have all of these are unconfirmed, but this offseason is pretty much over. So I'm going to assume that they're not coming back. We have Precious Achua, PJ Tucker, and DeLon Wright. Are there real cons to these players leaving? Like, is there a scenario where you run through this season and at the end of it you go, wow, dude, I just missed Precious Achua on my basketball team? Is that a real possibility? Or are all of these departures kind of just, part of doing business?
I think they are pretty much just part of doing business. I mean, we just kind of were talking about how Gershon Yabusele pretty easily replaces any and all production that Precious gave them last year. PJ Tucker didn't really play. I'm sure he's more of just a locker room type of guy as a vet there. But I'm confident enough in the camaraderie of the Knicks that, PJ not being there, it's not going to break the team apart. And then kind of same thing with DeLon. Like he had some good minutes in the playoffs when he got thrust out there and just tried to get a different look for the Knicks. But again, yeah, like with the new addition of Jordan Clarkson, Deuce McBride still there. Like there's no real situation where I saw he would be in the rotation. So again, besides like being a locker room vet, I don't think we're losing too much.
Yeah, I I didn't think so either. I do all these outlines the same way, talking about additions and departures. And the video that dropped yesterday, we talked about Nickeil Alexander Walker leaving the Timberwolves, how that could actually impact them. But when I was when I was reviewing this departure, I went, do we even have to talk about it? I guess we will. But
Yeah, the good part about the Knicks right now is pretty much our top like 7 guys are under contract for the next like 3 or 4 years. So this core is pretty much here in New York for the foreseeable future, unless there's a trade or anything. And that's definitely something good that I look forward to.
yeah, absolutely. I think the Knicks are set up for success, not only for this year, but for the future as well. Because I know that people like to clown Jalen Brunson because he's not young anymore, even though he gets thrown into the conversations about being a young superstar. But it's not like the 90s. It's not like when people were retiring at 32. Like Jalen still has a whole career in front of him. So I think the Knicks are really set up for success. Speaking of that success and the ability to go for it this year, the East is wide open. We're the Boston Celtics. We're taking a year off. We said, hey, we're too good. We're having too much success. We're gonna let somebody else eat right now. And I guess to some extent the Pacers did as well. We don't know what the Bucks are going to be. We don't know what the 76ers are going to do. I feel like this is the year that the Knicks could make the push, but that's just someone from the outside. As a fan, I know that you're kind of destined to say yes, this is the year that we can make the move, but if you put down the homer hat and put on the analytical hat, is there something that could potentially stop you from doing that?
So, I mean, obviously there's a lot of luck, a lot of, hard work and health that has to go into getting a team to the championship and, of course, winning it. But, I mean, this team, this year on paper, it seems like this is the best chance that they've had in a while. Like you mentioned, with the Celtics and the Pacers kind of taking a step back. Maybe even you could throw the Bucks in there with no Dame now. There is kind of like this pathway that makes it easier for the Knicks to make it. Obviously, there could be bumps on the road and everything. But when I look across the Eastern Conference, honestly, if you don't count as the when I look around across the Eastern Conference, if the Knicks lost in the playoffs to any team besides the Cleveland Cavaliers, I would be very, very, very disappointed. If they lost to the Cavs, I would be a little disappointed. But I feel like they're pretty much the only team that's like on the same tier as the Knicks right now. But even then, I'm pretty confident in the Knicks being able to beat them.
So we're just counting the Hornets. Got it. I'll jot that down for the notes that we don't believe in the Hornets this year. Uh, I'm in the middle of editing that video. It may be 6 minutes long. There's nothing to talk about the Hornets. They are so bad.
It happens.
So because of your belief in the Knicks, and again, again as an outside fan, I kind of want to throw Orlando into that same conversation as being the at least Mount Rushmore this year for the East, and the sneaky little Hawks pick just because of all the transition moves that they made. But I would have to agree that the Cavs are like the only real solidified deal. Is there a team other than the Cavs, maybe in the East, that scare you? Is there someone who you feel like matches up with you a little too well?
Honestly, aside from the Cavs, I would probably say the Hawks, just because, like you mentioned, I'm a big fan of a lot of their moves they made, bringing in Porzingis, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Luke Kennard too. I think is a pretty underrated move they made. I do think that they could be like like sleeper Eastern Conference Finals team potentially. And we all know that Trae Young loves to play in MSG. So, I'm sure that'll give him a little bit extra motivation, especially if it's in the conference finals now instead of the first round where he last beat the Knicks in the playoffs. I would say, like, cautiously, they are like my sleeper team behind the Cavs, where I'm like, I'm a little concerned, but also, like, again, I'm cautiously confident that the Knicks could beat pretty much anyone in the East.
Yeah, that's fair. I haven't recorded my Hawks video yet, but I think that this is pretty clearly the best roster that Trae Young has ever had. I also think that Jalen Johnson, barring some sort of injury, could make an all-star push. So I do think that the Hawks could be pretty scary. But if you were going to ask me today, 55 days before the season starts, I would say, yeah, the Knicks pretty handily have that matchup. So I do like the answer, but I wouldn't be concerned either if I were you. So not to steal or to borrow a gimmick of yours, you are in the middle of releasing all of your season previews. I really appreciate you taking a break from that to hop on with me.
Mm-hmm.
Because of that, because that you're in the middle of it, you've gone through all of the expectations, the ceilings and the floors. What's your expectation for the Knicks this year, as like objectively as possible? You can give me a homer answer that you're going to win all 82 games and it's going to be an easy breeze. But what's like a real confident outlook that we can have for the Knicks this year?
Honestly, I think if they're anything lower than the 2 seed, it's a kind of not a failure, but again, a disappointment of a season. I do expect them to be the 1st seed. I probably would pick them just over the Cavs. Maybe that's a little bit of my bias showing, but I do think at the minimum, it's close between those two. I would edge the Knicks out a little bit more. If I had to put like a number on it, I would say probably around that 55, maybe reaching barely 60 wins. If I'm putting a direct record on it though, I'll call it 57-25 on the year, 1st seed.
Perfectly respectable record for a number 1 seed. And even though the Cavs were very good last year, I feel like maybe some of the rust will start the show this year. I felt like last year the Cavs, that was their best chance to really shock some people, and I don't think that they would have beat the Thunder, but I feel like that was their moment to go for it. And if, say, at midway through January, the Cavs are floating around a couple games over 500, they may make some really drastic moves. So I know that the Knicks are all in because of all the moves that we've talked about, but I can't say the same for the Cavs. As much as I love Lonzo Ball, that is not a championship move at this level right now. So I'm interested to see how that shakes out for them. Now that we've kind of had this opportunity to look over the season preview, I think that we have a pretty good idea of what the Knicks are going to be. So I think it's a good place to just say, really appreciate you for stopping by. Love what you're doing for your own videos, what you're doing on Twitter. I love that. Because we are both aspiring content creators, I want to introduce this little segment into these videos, what I'm calling a content corner. I'd love to just kind of pick your brain for what's your why? How did you end up here and things of that nature? So if you could tell the people at home, is there or was there a moment that you decided that you wanted to go for this, how you wanted to make this something that's part of your future?
So honestly, like if I think back, like when I was growing up as a kid, like I watched a lot of YouTube. Like arguably, I watched more YouTube than like TV and movies and stuff like that. And there's always been like a little part of me that wanted to be in content creation. Maybe at one point I'll bring it to light, but out there somewhere floating in the abyss, there's my first YouTube video ever uploaded on a separate channel, and I think I'm like maybe 7 years old, and it's me and my brother playing with our Beyblades, recorded on my iPod. We just had like a little video there, uploaded that. Then like, a few years later, me and him made a new channel where we're going to do Let's Play video game, series. I had another channel where I was going to do Minecraft videos. Me and my friend made a YouTube channel on Black Ops 2. Like there's always been that passion for content creation, and there's always been just that part of me that it has loved YouTube. And now I think I honed it into basketball, and this is definitely the channel I've put the most like dedication to. All those other channels out there maybe have like 2 videos each, but yeah, this one I finally like stick to it. And obviously I'm much older now, I can actually put much more time and effort into these videos. But yeah, there definitely was always a small part of me that was super interested and in love with content creation.
Those are the kind of stories that I really appreciate too. Mine's sort of similar. When I was really young, we were playing a game on the PlayStation 2. It was NHL 2002, arguably, small tangent, the best sports video game ever made that never gets brought up in conversation. Loved it. So we had this TV that had a VCR like built into it. And you're 22 years old. A VCR is this thing.
I know VCR.
So we had blank tapes that you could record whatever was on the screen. What I would do is play whatever game it was. I was a big Anaheim Ducks fan at the time. Who wasn't? Who doesn't love the Mighty Ducks? I'd play whoever. I'd record the gameplay. I'd wait for my dad to get home, throw it back in the VCR, and just kind of show him what I did. So I think from a pretty early onset, even though I didn't know what it was then, I just had this like innate want to share what I was experiencing. So I love stories like that. You said that you watched and maybe still do a lot of YouTube more than TV. Were there any specific content creators that kind of pushed you into this, or that you get some inspiration from?
I don't know. I feel like it would be hard to like pick one specific person, or like just out of like all of content creation. I feel like that's a little broad. So if I'm looking more specifically towards like sports media content creation, I would say the Numbers on the Board podcast, like just for the fact alone that they've kind of bridged the gap between like internet, social media, and like, they're signed to ESPN now. They have ESPN shows on TV and stuff. So the fact that they've like bridged that gap is super inspirational to me. Just, hopefully there's building a path where there's, other people that can follow behind them. And then also just when they make their content, they always talk about basketball in a good light. They're entertaining and they're informative. And I feel like those are 3 things I try to portray in my videos. So definitely a big shout out to Numbers on the Board.
Yeah, for sure. Something I admire about them too is that their story is attainable. Like, it's reachable. They were just friends from high school that loved basketball and wanted to do this. Obviously, it started with Kenny, King of the Fourth Quarter. And what I love about him is that when this started to pop off for him, he brought his homies with him. And that's something that I would love to do. I'd love to be able to take the people that I love with me too. So being able to see them have so much success is super inspiring. That's also on my list for the people who inspired me. So great pick there. I know that you've been doing this for a while now, and there are some definite highs and lows to being a content creator, even at our size. Is there something that if an aspiring content creator came up to you, would you pass on? Is there a piece of advice that you would give above all else?
I'd probably say to make sure you're always making content you enjoy, and to make content for yourself, not in a selfish way, but the way I look at it, it's like, all right, I'm going to make this video. I enjoy making it. I put it out there. Hopefully people like it. If they do, amazing. If they don't, it is what it is. I had fun still making it. If I try to make content that I think other people might like, then that leads it so maybe I'm not having as much fun. Maybe it leads me to being like a little bit more like dreadful when I'm making content. You never want to do that. You always want to make sure you're doing it for fun, for you first. You want to make sure you're enjoying what you're doing. So and doing something for other people doesn't even guarantee that they like it. You could say like, I think people will like this video, and they still might not like it. And at that point, you made something you don't enjoy, and you made something that other people don't enjoy. You might as well check off one of those boxes, and the easiest one to do is to make something you enjoy personally. So I would definitely say that. And then also just stay dedicated. Like you said, there's a lot of highs and lows. But again, if you enjoy what you're doing, it's easier to stay dedicated. And when you're dedicated long enough, something good is bound to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. That has to be one of the biggest things that you could tell somebody. I think it's really easy. I've had a couple of my short form videos really pop off, and the style that I was doing that in, it was really hard to not lean back into. I remember one of the videos I was talking, it was like the second or third game of the season. It appeared as if Mike Malone had given up on the idea of playing Jokic and Russell Westbrook any minutes at all, because the minutes that they were playing together were atrocious, and they figured it out by the end of the season. But I wasn't even really being negative in the video, but I was presenting facts that were negative. So everybody kind of like piled onto that. It was really hard for the next, 10 videos or so to not just be negative, because that's what drives the numbers. That's what people want, apparently, rather than talking about something positive. It's really hard to not want to do that. But you could say a lot of things about me and my content, but I've never once made a piece of content that I didn't believe in. And I think that that's super important. There have been videos that I've made that I am not happy with the outcome, you know, likes and comments and engagement and all that. But not one time I've ever hit post and thought, I don't know if I believe that or not. So being authentic and making stuff that you like is super important. Cannot agree with that enough.
For sure. I feel like, especially nowadays, like clickbaiting and rage baiting, and like there's so much people try to do to just get engagement, and it's very shameless if you ask me. I definitely try to be, yeah, like you said, genuine and put up like real content, not just something where I think like, oh yeah, people will probably click this, so let me make it like that. Like, I feel like that's the wrong way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're watching this and wanting to be an inspiring content creator, just be you. And whatever version that is, just be you. And as long as you like it, you're in a good spot. You'll find people who are like you more often than not.
Yes.
Now that we've got to this point, the season's upcoming. Like I said, about 55 days until NBA season tip off. What are your content creation goals for this upcoming season? We're kind of in the dead period right now. Other than doing these kind of previews, there's not a whole lot to talk about. Is there something specific that you have your eye on for this upcoming year?
Like goal wise, not really. I definitely, like right now I'm doing my preseason preview videos. So my goal is to just complete that series before the season starts for sure. I know right now is where I kind of have to gear up and put out like I think it's like 3 videos a week now to make sure I make that deadline. So definitely want to make sure I stay on schedule with that. I used to put like deadlines on my goals where I'm like, oh, by this time, I hope I'm at this amount of followers, this amount of subscribers, whatever. I kind of stopped doing that. So my goal still just ongoing is 500 subscribers. That's my next like check mark I'm going on. So hopefully that happens by the end of the year or the end of the season. But yeah, mainly those two things.
Are you a big goal guy in general, or is it more just if it happens, it happens?
I think it's important to have like goals and like move with intention, if that makes sense. But like also don't get like in a chokehold about your goals, and like especially if like maybe you fall short of one, like it's important you don't just like beat yourself up over that. And that's kind of a reason why I've stopped putting like deadlines on my goals. Just I try to stay focused on the end goal, and just chip away, move forward towards that, rather than try to like be strict on these different check marks or whatever.
I think that's a good goal to have as well. Like a good piece of advice you could pass along is, especially here, right? Unless you're getting paid by YouTube, and I don't know about it. We're not getting paid to do this. We are doing this for the love of the game, for lack of a better term. We're doing it for a check one day. And I think something that could kill your drive really fast is putting deadlines on yourself. I started these previews much later than you did. So now I have put myself in this hole of needing to put one out every other day. So I'm just record, edit, record, edit, record, edit, and it's a constant loop. Could I have fixed that? Yes, but also in my head, last year's, I did 30 videos in 30 days, and I said, never again. Too
Yeah,
much.
nah, no,
So
too much.
I said too much, and I said, you know what, Austin? You've earned it. Give yourself an extra day in between. That'll fix it. So, like I said, I really appreciate you coming on. We've reached the part of the episode where I'm going to really put you on the spot. For those at home, I send all the guests on here an outline of what we're going to talk about. That way they can form their opinions and kind of harness in what they want to talk about. That way they don't misspeak or misquote or anything like that. I do keep the lightning rounds, the rapid fire questions to myself, mostly because I'm a sicko. So are you ready? You don't have to elaborate on them if you don't want to. You can just say the first thing that pops into your head. 5 questions. Are you ready?
Yes, sir. Let's get it.
And like I said pre-show, the first question is going to be a flanderization of all New Yorkers. I'm not sorry about it. Question number 1. What is your go-to bodega order?
So there's a little caveat to this because when I turned 18, I found out that I'm actually allergic to gluten. So
Ooh,
I can't
rough.
just, very rough. I can't just walk into any corner store or anything and just get whatever I want. But before that, I will say my go-to order was just an egg everything bagel toasted with cream cheese, and then I would get an iced tea. If it wasn't like a deli iced tea, I would get like a Snapple or something. Very simple. I'm not a big bacon, egg, and cheese guy, funny enough, but
See, that would be mine if I was going to go back on a roll. Sounds right up my alley.
it is
That's
good,
tough.
but it just, I don't know. I'm not a big eggs guy.
That's tough to have a gluten allergy. I'm a slut for bread, man.
Bro.
I don't know what I would do if
It was very tough adjustment, but at this point, it's a few years in, so I'm kind of used to it, but yeah.
Now we're on the other side. So, Knicks player who you think would have the best playlist? Who would you trust to give the aux to?
Honestly, I see Mikal Bridges posting his songs like when he's driving in the car every once in a while on his Instagram stories. And he always seems to have like a smooth R&B vibe going. So I would say him for sure.
Reasonable enough. You said that you're a Long Island guy. Because of that, I don't feel like you'll have an outright answer for this, but I am going to ask it anyway. Favorite New York borough?
I mean, it would be easy to say Manhattan just because that's like where a lot of stuff is. I'm going to say Manhattan. It's where MSG is. I've been to a few different concerts at venues around there too. Soho's pretty dope. I'll say Manhattan.
Team that you would root for if the Knicks didn't exist?
All right, so I'm not going to look at it as if like I spawned in with no Knicks ever. I'm going to look at it as if they got ripped away for some bad reason. I'm a pretty big, wrong way. I'm a big Rockets fan. So I feel like I would probably just gravitate towards them. I like a lot what they're going on. Definitely Knicks over everything. Don't get me twisted on that, but probably Rockets.
Yeah, fair enough. The Alperen Şengün jersey in the background was a very clear giveaway. I would be surprised if you answered anything else. And last question before we get you out of here. What is your go-to Frank Ocean song?
That is a tough one. I don't know. I feel like it does depend on like the vibe of like what I'm trying to go towards. Usually my go-to on if anyone says like what's your favorite Frank Ocean song, I say Self Control. But right now I've been feeling Purity a little bit. It's technically a feature. It's by A$AP Rocky featuring Frank Ocean, but I'll go Purity.
I love the picks, honestly. I've said it a couple times before, but I really am appreciative of you stopping by. I love that we're mutuals and that we're in the same space and we're in the same rat race together. Couldn't think of somebody better to have on as the first real content creator guest for this. Really appreciate you stopping by. In the description, there's going to be links to all the things that I have available to me. Your Twitch, your Twitter, your Instagram, all the places. Is there anything else you'd like to promote?
No, it's pretty much just YouTube, Twitter. Those are my main ones. I do also have like a Twitch that I haven't live streamed on in like years. My Instagram.
We gotta get those numbers up, dog.
My Instagram usually is like more of just personal towards me, but also it's public out there for you guys that want to follow it. But yeah, mainly YouTube and Twitter, man.
All right, good deal. Again, really appreciate it. That's gonna do it for me. That's gonna do it for Jacob. Be kind, tell somebody you love them, and I'll see you in the next one.
Barely scraping by, trying to stop puffing. I'm trying to be one of the greats.